If you and your family are stressed about the SAT, I'm going to tell you something that might actually make you feel better. Your child does not need more time to raise their SAT score. Here's a reality of most of the families that I work with. Their child is in 4 or 5 AP classes. They play sports 5 days a week. They have volunteer hours and work on the weekends. Now they're starting to write their college application essays as well. You and I both know that between all of that, there is zero chance that your child finds 15 hours a week to grind on the SAT. But the good news, they don't need that much time. Not even close. I know that sounds wrong. That runs counter to what every other prep program and every other tutor is telling you. But every single prep program out there is selling you time. More sessions, more hours, more time on their platform so they can make more money off of you. The families that come to me saying, we just don't have time, that's not actually their problem. They've just been fed the wrong information. Their actual problem is that the time that they do have is being spent on the wrong things. Because here's what nobody in the test prep industry is ever going to tell you. And I know this because I used to work at the Princeton Review and Prep Expert, two of the biggest companies in the industry. The SAT is not an everything test. It tests very specific skills. And if you know exactly which skills to focus on and in what order, you can make dramatic progress in a fraction of the time that those other programs are telling you that you need. How do I know this? Because that's been the case for tons of my students. We made dramatic improvements and hit top tier scores, often in less than a few weeks. And that's what this video is all about. If you want to see how your child can make a huge improvement, click the link below. I offer a few free strategy sessions every week to help families map out a game plan. Whenever someone tells me we just don't have time, what they usually mean is this. We don't have time to do SAT prep the way we think it needs to be done. And the way most people envision SAT prep is multiple hours every day, full practice tests every single weekend, grinding through every topic in every section of the test. That model was built for students with nothing else going on. But that's most likely not your student. That's certainly not the case for many of the students that I've worked with. The SAT is not like an AP class, say AP US History, for example, where you do have to know 300 years worth of content. The SAT tests a finite, repeatable set of skills. All in all, between both math and English, there are probably less than 30 truly distinct types of questions. And they show up every single time. That's it. The SAT is really just the same test, over and over again, just with slightly different numbers and slightly different reading passages. Which means that there are only so many skills that you need to know. You master all those, you can achieve top tier scores as well. So asking, how do we find 20 hours every week? That's the wrong question to ask. The right question is, how do I spend the 2 hours that I do have every week? Because now that becomes a completely different problem. Here's the framework that I use for students with limited study time. The high leverage skills system. 3 levels, each targeting a different type of improvement. Level 1 is the high frequency, high impact skills. These are the ones that show up every single time and are worth the most points relative to the amount of time it takes to learn them. In math, this is things like linear equations, systems of equations, quadratics, factoring. Those concepts alone account for a massive percentage, close to 60% of all the types of questions that you'll see on SAT math. If your child has gaps there, fill them first. That will boost your score the most. And on the English side, core grammar rules. Punctuation, transitions, verb forms, etc. Those are the most learnable because they're very mechanical and repetitive. They follow strict rules. And everything else in reading comprehension builds off of them as well. High frequency, high impact skills first. Always, no exceptions. If you want to see exactly what those skills are, I made free video breakdowns covering every single skill on the SAT. Comment the word skills and I'll send it over to you. Now, level 2 is more about SAT specific strategy. Question by question strategies that will show up every single time. Every single one of those 30 question types or so has very predictable patterns and therefore repeatable approaches on how to solve them. For example, for rhetorical synthesis questions in English, all you have to do is read the answer options, see which one actually answers a question, doesn't dodge the question, and that's it. And in math, Every single linear equation with just one variable can be solved with Desmos. These strategies often take less than 10 minutes to learn. They do require deliberate practice to drill them into a habit. But once you see them, you can't unsee them, and they free up time on every single test. Now, level 3, these are your high ROI weak spots. Once you fix those first 2 levels, you go hunting for your specific weak spots, but with a strict filter. Not every weak spot is worth fixing. There might be some very convoluted geometry concept that may show up once in the math section. It may take you hours to learn, but if it only shows up once, that's not worth your time. High ROI weak spots are ones that show up enough to matter, are specific enough that you can very easily learn them, and are currently costing you points so that they're actually worth fixing. And the way you find them is to use an error log. Every time you do practice, write down exactly what mistake you made, why you made that mistake, and how to fix it again the next time. And your error log over time tells you exactly which areas that you need to fix. Now that's the high level framework. But even with the right approach, there are 2 mistakes that really just kill progress for students. Mistake number 1 is starting with a full practice test to, see where you are. Yeah, I understand that instinct. You want a baseline. But a full practice test takes 3 hours. But the worst part is it misses a ton of variables. Did you miss a question because you actually didn't know the concept? Did you miss a question because you're not familiar with that specific SAT approach? Did you miss a question because you ran out of time? You just spent 3 hours and you learned nothing about your real weakness. Don't start with practice tests. In the very beginning, they don't tell you anything. And if you only have 3 hours or so a week to study, you just wasted that time on something that didn't actually help you. Mistake number 2 is studying what's comfortable instead of what's already broken. It's a very subtle thing, but many times students drift towards practicing things that they're already decent at. It feels productive, they're moving through a bunch of questions, but at the end of the day, they're practicing the things that they already know how to do. The error log solves this. It gives you concrete data from your own experience on what you should actually be practicing so that you don't do what's comfortable and waste the time that you do have. So if your child is packed with AP classes, sports, etc., and you've been putting off SAT prep because you don't know how you're going to fit that in, here's your exact starting point. First, find 4 hours a week, not 15 or 20, just 4. That amounts to about 30 minutes a day. And I know that everybody can find 30 minutes a day. Put them in the calendar, make them non-negotiable. That's step number 1. You don't need a massive block of time. You need a targeted block of time. And if you go through and master those skills in the right order, the level 1, the level 2, and then the level 3 skills, over time, you will have mastered everything you need to actually do well on the SAT. And consistency beats volume every single time. Here's what I want you to take away from this. We don't have time is not the problem. Every single family I've ever worked with said that at the beginning. Students who made the biggest improvements weren't the ones who completely cleared their schedules. They were the ones who stopped spending time on the wrong things, did the things that everybody else was telling them to do, and instead started to focus on the right things. The SAT rewards precision, not volume, not hours, but precision. If you want help building a targeted plan specifically for your child's situation, I offer a free diagnostic where we do exactly that. I'll look at where they are, what their schedule allows, and map out the highest leverage path forward. Links in the description. If you're tired of waiting for a quote-unquote better time to start, well, this is the better time. Subscribe for more weekly content on test prep and college admissions. I'll see you guys in the next one.